The words you most need to hear are often the ones that sound most unreasonable to the anxious mind. Be still, not because nothing is happening, but because far more is happening than you can see. You stand today with clenched fists, rehearsing arguments in your head, mapping outcomes that have not yet arrived, bearing the full weight of a struggle you were never meant to carry alone. And it is precisely here, in this strained posture of self-defense, that you must be told a quiet but unsettling truth. This battle is not yours. It never was. We are inclined to believe that responsibility and control are the same thing. If something matters deeply, we assume we must grip it tightly, guard it fiercely, and exhaust ourselves in the process. We imagine that letting go is the same as giving up, that surrender is weakness dressed in spiritual language. But the universe governed by God does not operate on such shallow logic. There are battles in which human effort only complicates what divine wisdom has already resolved. There are moments when your striving is not faithfulness, but interference. God is fighting for you, though not in the way your imagination prefers. You expect thunder and immediate reversals, a dramatic public vindication that leaves no doubt about who was right and who was wrong. Yet God often works with a patience that feels like absence. He allows events to unfold, conversations to expose hidden motives, time to reveal what force never could. While you are asking for speed, he is arranging precision. While you are demanding relief, he is shaping endurance. And all the while, the battle continues on a plane far above your frantic calculations. Consider how easily fear convinces you that everything depends on your next move. Fear is a persuasive counselor, whispering that if you do not act now, you will lose everything. It urges you to speak when silence would protect you, to retaliate when restraint would free you, to plan endlessly as though foresight could replace trust. Fear makes you feel responsible for outcomes that are far beyond your reach. But God does not ask you to be omniscient, only obedient. He does not require you to foresee every danger, only to follow when he says, "Stand here," or, just as often, "Wait." There is a peculiar humility required to accept that God is fighting for you. Pride prefers the narrative of self-made victory. Even in prayer, we sometimes disguise our desire for control as devotion, presenting God with carefully constructed plans and asking him to endorse them. Yet true faith sounds less like instruction and more like consent. It says, "I do not see the end, but I trust the one who does." It releases the demand to manage every detail, and instead rests in the assurance that nothing escapes his attention. You may object that the pain feels too immediate to be handled by invisible hands. The wounds are real, the opposition tangible, the losses measurable. And yet, what if the most decisive movements in this conflict are occurring where you cannot intervene? What if God is rearranging hearts, dismantling false supports, and redirecting paths in ways that no argument or effort of yours could accomplish? What if the delay you resent is the very space required for justice to mature, rather than merely react? When God fights for you, he does not always remove you from the battlefield. Sometimes he asks you to remain present, but no longer frantic. You are still there, but no longer consumed by the need to win. You speak truth without venom. You act without desperation. You endure without bitterness. This is not passivity, it is alignment. Your role shifts from warrior to witness, from strategist to servant, and in that shift, something remarkable happens. The battle loses its power to define you. The world teaches you that identity is forged through conflict, that you become yourself by defeating others or at least proving them wrong. God teaches something stranger and far more demanding, that identity is received, not achieved. You are his before you are victorious. You are loved before you are justified. The battle, therefore, cannot determine your worth, because your worth was settled long before the conflict began. Once this truth takes root, the urgency to defend yourself at every turn begins to loosen its grip. Look back, if you dare, at the struggles you once believed would destroy you. How many of them resolved in ways you could not have engineered? How many enemies faded, circumstances shifted, doors closed or opened without your consent. You survived not because you were brilliant, but because you were carried. This is not meant to humiliate you, but to free you. The same God who intervened before has not grown tired, inattentive, or uncertain. His resources have not diminished simply because your current challenge feels unprecedented. There is also the uncomfortable reality that some battles persist because they are teaching you something essential. God fights for you not only by opposing what threatens you, but by opposing what distorts you. He resists the pride that would ruin you, the impatience that would harden you, the self-reliance that would isolate you. In this sense, the battle is indeed not yours, because part of what God is contending against is the very illusion that you must fight alone. You ask why justice seems slow, why wrongs appear to flourish unchecked. But haste is not the same as righteousness. God's timing is not designed to satisfy your appetite for immediate resolution. It is designed to accomplish lasting transformation. He is not merely interested in ending the conflict, but in redeeming you through it. And redemption is rarely rushed. It unfolds quietly, persistently, often unnoticed, until you look back and realize you are no longer who you were when the struggle began. To believe that God is fighting for you is to accept a certain vulnerability. It means admitting that you cannot guarantee outcomes, that your strength has limits, that your understanding is partial at best. Yet this vulnerability is not exposure to danger, it is exposure to grace. When you stop pretending to be self-sufficient, you make room for divine sufficiency. When you release the need to control, you discover the relief of being cared for. Still, you may fear that if you do nothing, everything will collapse. But doing nothing is not the same as doing what God asks. Sometimes obedience looks like action, sometimes it looks like restraint, sometimes it is a step forward, sometimes it is the discipline of standing still while your instincts scream otherwise. The difficulty lies not in effort, but in discernment, and discernment grows not from panic, but from attentiveness. God does not shout over the noise of your anxiety. He waits for you to quiet yourself enough to hear. His guidance is often subtle, not because it lacks authority, but because it respects your freedom. He invites rather than coerces. He leads rather than drags. And when you follow, even imperfectly, you begin to notice that the burden you have been carrying starts to feel strangely lighter, as though another set of hands has taken hold. You may also discover that the battle changes shape once you stop trying to win it. What once felt like a threat becomes a test of character. What once demanded retaliation becomes an opportunity for integrity. This does not mean the opposition disappears, but it loses its ultimate power. It can no longer define your peace, because your peace no longer depends on its defeat. It depends on your trust. There is a deep irony here. By relinquishing the fight, you often find that the outcome unfolds more favorably than any strategy you could have devised, not because you were clever in letting go, but because God was faithful in taking over. He defends in ways that preserve your soul, not just your reputation. He resolves conflicts without turning you into someone you would later regret becoming. And so, when you are tempted to rehearse every possible disaster, remember that God is not improvising. When you feel compelled to justify yourself to every critic, remember that truth does not require constant defense. When exhaustion settles into your bones, remember that it is often a signal not to try harder, but to trust deeper. The battle is real, yes, but it is not yours in the way you have been carrying it. Even now, as you listen to these words, you may feel resistance rising within you. Letting go feels dangerous. Trust feels uncertain. Yet consider which has cost you more so far, surrender or striving. Consider how much energy you have spent trying to control what remains stubbornly beyond your reach. God is not asking you to abandon wisdom or responsibility, but to release the illusion that everything depends on you. There will still be moments when fear returns, when the old habits of control reassert themselves. Do not be surprised by this. Faith is not a permanent emotional state, but a repeated decision. Each time anxiety tightens its grip, you are invited again to loosen your hold and say quietly but firmly, "This is not mine to carry." Each time you choose trust over panic, you participate in a freedom that grows stronger with use. You are not neglecting the battle by trusting God, you are acknowledging the true scale of it. You are admitting that the forces at work exceed your strength and therefore require a strength beyond your own. This admission is not defeat, it is wisdom. It places you in proper relation to the one who sees the whole field, who knows every heart involved, who understands consequences you cannot yet imagine. And so, as events continue to unfold, as conversations happen and decisions are made without your consent, you are invited to remain steady rather than frantic, faithful rather than fearful. You may not see immediate proof that God is fighting for you, but absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Much of what matters most happens quietly, beneath the surface, like roots growing strong enough to support what will one day be visible. Stay attentive, stay humble, stay willing to obey even when obedience looks unimpressive. The story is not finished, and the battle has not reached its true turning point yet. What feels like delay may be preparation, and what feels like loss may be repositioning. God is at work in ways that do not announce themselves, shaping outcomes that will, in time, make sense of the confusion you feel now. And as you continue to walk forward, resisting the urge to seize control, you may begin to notice that the weight on your shoulders is no longer crushing, that the fear which once dominated your thoughts now comes and goes, that even in uncertainty, there is a strange and steady confidence growing within you, as though you are being taught to trust, not because everything is easy, but because you are finally learning that you do not stand alone in this struggle, that the hands guiding events are far steadier than your own, and that even now, while you wait, while you wonder, you resist the urge to step in and force an outcome. The battle continues to move toward a resolution that you could not have planned, could not have demanded, and could not have secured by strength alone, because it is being carried forward by a purpose far larger than your fear, a will far stronger than your opposition, and a faithfulness that does not tire even when you do. And as you remain here, breathing, listening, and choosing again not to panic, you may find yourself standing at the very edge of a change that has been forming quietly all along, just beyond what you can see, just beyond what you can control, and just close enough that if you are still, truly still, you might begin to sense that what comes next is not chaos, not defeat, but something unfolding with a wisdom that has been present from the very beginning, waiting for you to trust it enough to let it unfold without your interference, because the hardest lesson for the human heart is not how to fight, but how to wait without surrendering to despair. Waiting, when done rightly, is not empty time. It is filled with a quiet obedience that says, "I will not rush what God is refining." You are not being ignored in this waiting, you are being prepared. There are parts of you that could not survive the victory you are asking for if it came too soon. Strength must deepen before deliverance becomes safe. You have likely noticed how easily the mind returns to the scene of conflict, replaying conversations, revising responses, imagining different outcomes as though repetition could alter reality. This habit feels productive, but it is often only anxiety wearing the mask of diligence. God does not need you to rehearse what He has already accounted for. He does not consult your worry when deciding His next move. The mental noise you carry does not sharpen His strategy. It only dulls your peace. A profound difference between caring deeply and carrying everything. Caring is an act of love. Carrying everything is an act of fear. Love trusts that what matters will be held even when released. Fear insists that if you loosen your grip, everything will fall apart. Yet again and again, life teaches the opposite lesson. The tighter you hold, the more fragile things become. The gentler your trust, the more resilient your soul grows. God's way of fighting often involves revealing truth rather than overpowering resistance. He allows falsehood to speak until it exposes itself, pride to rise until it collapses under its own weight. You may wish he would silence opposition immediately, but silenced lies often return louder. Exposed lies lose their power permanently. What feels like tolerance is often strategy. What feels like delay is often precision. You are not called to understand every step, only to remain faithful in the one you are standing on. The desire to see the whole map is understandable, but it is also unrealistic. Sight is given in portions, not panoramas. Faith walks by what is revealed, not by what is desired. And what is revealed to you now may be nothing more than the next right choice. Not to retaliate, not to despair, not to abandon integrity for speed. It is tempting to believe that if God were truly fighting for you, the struggle would feel less personal. But divine involvement does not always numb pain. Sometimes it sharpens awareness. You feel the weight of this battle because it matters, because it is shaping you in ways comfort never could. Yet being shaped does not mean being abandoned. A sculptor's hand applies pressure with intention, never confusion. There are victories that announce themselves with celebration, and there are victories that arrive quietly, almost unnoticed, until you realize something no longer controls you. You may wake one day and discover that the resentment you once rehearsed has lost its urgency, that the fear you once fed no longer dictates your choices. This too is triumph. God fights not only for your circumstances, but for your freedom within them. When you begin to trust this, you stop demanding signs that everything will work out exactly as you imagined. You become willing to accept outcomes that are good, even if they are unfamiliar. Trust loosens your attachment to specific endings and anchors you instead to the character of the one who guides the story. You do not need to know how everything will resolve if you are convinced of who is overseeing the resolution. The world encourages you to interpret silence as neglect. God invites you to interpret silence as space. Space to grow roots instead of chasing applause. Space to learn endurance instead of seeking escape. Space to recognize that your worth is not measured by how quickly you overcome obstacles, but by how faithfully you walk through them. Silence is not emptiness. It is often fullness waiting to be recognized. You may find that as you stop fighting in your own strength, new battles reveal themselves within you. Impatience surfaces. Pride resists surrender. Doubt questions every step. These internal struggles can feel discouraging, as though letting go has only complicated matters. But this exposure is not regression, it is honesty. God cannot heal what you refuse to see. The surfacing of weakness is often the beginning of strength. Do not confuse vulnerability with failure. To admit that you cannot manage everything is not to confess incompetence, it is to acknowledge reality. You were never designed to carry the weight of the world, not even your small corner of it. You were designed to depend, to receive, to be guided. Independence is admired by culture, but dependence is woven into the fabric of faith. You move through this season. Resist the urge to measure progress by visible change alone. Some of the most important transformations are internal and invisible. Courage grows quietly. Trust strengthens slowly. Wisdom deepens through repetition rather than revelation. If you look only for dramatic shifts, you may overlook the steady work that is already taking place. God's involvement does not remove your responsibility to act with integrity. It refines it. You are still called to speak truth, to choose kindness, to resist corruption, to remain faithful in small things. But you do these not as a desperate attempt to control outcomes, but as an expression of who you are becoming. Obedience becomes less about securing a result and more about reflecting a character shaped by trust. There will be moments when it seems as though those who oppose you are thriving while you remain stuck. This apparent imbalance can provoke bitterness if you let it. But flourishing is not always what it appears to be. Growth without depth collapses under pressure. Success without integrity corrodes from within. God is not impressed by speed, He is concerned with sustainability. You are being taught to value long obedience over quick victory. This lesson is uncomfortable in a world addicted to immediacy, but it produces a resilience that circumstances cannot steal. When you no longer need instant validation to remain faithful, you become remarkably difficult to defeat. The battle loses its leverage when your peace is no longer dependent on its outcome. It is also worth considering that some conflicts are not meant to be won, but outgrown. God fights for you by leading you beyond the reach of what once threatened you. What you leave behind cannot harm you. Maturity is often a quiet departure from battles that no longer deserve your energy. Letting go is not always a concession sometimes. It is a promotion. As trust deepens, prayer changes. It becomes less frantic and more conversational, less about persuading God and more about aligning with Him. You stop asking Him to fix everything immediately and start asking Him to shape you faithfully. This shift does not make you passive, it makes you receptive. You become attentive to subtle guidance, to gentle corrections, to opportunities that would have gone unnoticed amid panic. You may still feel moments of anger, grief, or confusion. Faith does not eliminate emotion, it anchors it. You are allowed to lament without losing trust, to question without abandoning hope. God is not threatened by your honesty. He does not require polished devotion, only genuine surrender. Even your frustration, when offered rather than suppressed, can become part of the conversation that leads you forward. There is a strange peace that comes when you finally accept that you cannot force justice, only participate in it. God handles the scales, you handle obedience. This division of labor is not burdensome, it is merciful. It frees you from the exhausting attempt to correct every wrong and allows you to focus on living rightly within your reach. As days pass, you may notice that the urgency you once felt has softened into patience, not because the situation resolved, but because your trust expanded. Patience is not indifference. It is confidence stretched over time. It believes that what is unseen is still active, that what is delayed is not denied, that what is uncertain is not uncontrolled. You are learning, perhaps slowly, that God's faithfulness is not proved by the absence of struggle, but by His presence within it. He does not always remove the storm, but He steadies the vessel. He does not always shorten the journey, but He ensures that you are not lost along the way. This companionship is easy to overlook when you are focused solely on escape. When you stop demanding immediate clarity, you become capable of recognizing quiet guidance, a conversation that shifts your perspective, a moment of restraint that prevents regret, an unexpected door closing that later reveals protection. These are not coincidences, they are the marks of a battle being fought with a wisdom that sees further than you can. The temptation to reclaim control will return, especially when progress feels slow. When it does, you are not failing, you are being invited again to choose trust. Faith is cumulative, built through repeated acts of release. Each time you resist the urge to seize control, you strengthen a habit that will serve you long after this particular struggle has passed. God is not asking you to be fearless. He is asking you to be faithful despite fear. Courage is not the absence of anxiety, it is obedience in its presence. When you act rightly even while uncertain, you participate in a strength that does not originate from you. This strength does not boast, it endures. There is also mercy in accepting that some answers will come only in retrospect. Understanding often follows obedience, not precedes it. You may one day look back and see how carefully events were arranged, how necessary the waiting was, how precise the timing proved to be. But for now, you are asked to walk without that clarity, trusting that it will come when it can serve you rather than distract you. The battle you are facing is shaping not only your future, but your capacity to handle what comes after. God is not merely rescuing you from difficulty, He is equipping you for responsibility. What you learn here will echo into situations you have not yet imagined. The patience you develop now will steady you later. The trust you practice now will anchor you when stakes are even higher. Do not underestimate the power of staying watch. Ere you are called, even when movement seems more appealing, faithfulness in place is often more transformative than restless advancement. God fights for you by teaching you when to move and when to remain. Both require trust, but staying often requires more. As this season continues, you may feel the desire to declare victory prematurely, simply to relieve the tension of uncertainty. Resist this urge. Let the story unfold fully. Partial conclusions can distort meaning. God's work is not rushed, and it does not need your announcement to validate it. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are not standing alone on the edge of something uncertain without support. The quietness you experience is not emptiness. It is attention focused where you cannot yet see. The battle is advancing even when your circumstances appear unchanged. And so you continue, not with clenched fists but with open hands, not with frantic strategies but with steady obedience. You continue choosing integrity when compromise seems easier, patience when impatience feels justified, trust when control feels safer. These choices do not make headlines, but they shape destiny. Even now, as you move through ordinary moments, something extraordinary is at work. Threads are being woven together beyond your awareness. Paths are crossing at the right time. Decisions are being influenced in ways you could never orchestrate. The outcome is forming, quietly, inevitably, guided by a wisdom that does not panic. You are being taught how to live without needing to dominate the narrative, how to participate without possessing, how to care deeply without carrying everything. These lessons will outlast the current struggle. They will become part of who you are, altering how you approach every challenge that follows. And as you remain here, attentive, breathing, resisting the urge to rush the ending, you may begin to sense that the battle, while still present, no longer feels as consuming as it once did. The fear that once filled every thought now visits less frequently. The urgency that once drove every decision now loosens its grip. Something within you is settling, not because everything is resolved, but because you are learning, slowly and steadily, to trust the one who is still at work, still guiding, still fighting in ways you cannot yet measure, still moving this story forward toward a moment that has not arrived but is already prepared, waiting patiently for its time, just as you are being taught to wait, to trust, and to remain faithful as the next unseen step draws nearer, unfolding with a purpose that has never once been out of control, even now, even here, even as the path ahead remains partially hidden, inviting you to continue walking without certainty, but not without hope, not without guidance, and not without the quiet assurance that what is happening beneath the surface is far more decisive than what you can see, and that as long as you keep releasing what was never yours to carry, you will continue to be led forward into whatever comes next, one unforced step at a time, sustained by a strength that does not falter, a wisdom that does not rush, and a faithfulness that continues long after your own understanding reaches its limit. And still the story moves, still the work continues, still the battle advances toward a resolution that is forming even now, beyond the edges of your perception, where patience is quietly rewarded and trust is slowly vindicated. You may not feel triumphant, but you are becoming steady, and steadiness is often the truest sign that God is near. The frantic energy that once demanded answers is giving way to a quieter confidence, one that does not need constant reassurance to survive. This confidence is not built on visible success, but on a growing familiarity with God's character, a recognition that He has never abandoned what He has begun. You may still encounter moments when doubt flares unexpectedly, when a single comment or setback threatens to unravel the peace you have been cultivating. Do not be alarmed by this. Faith is not a straight ascent but a winding path, marked by revisits to old fears and renewed invitations to trust. Each return to fear is not a failure. It is an opportunity to practice release again, this time with a little more wisdom than before. There is something deeply transformative about learning to live without needing immediate vindication. When you no longer require others to acknowledge your rightness, you gain freedom from their power. God fights for you by untangling your identity from the opinions and actions of those around you. He teaches you to stand secure even when misunderstood, to remain truthful even when misrepresented, to persist in goodness even when it seems unnoticed. This kind of freedom cannot be rushed. It is forged slowly through repeated choices to trust God with your reputation, your future, and your unresolved questions. You may want closure, a clear ending that neatly explains everything you have endured. But life rarely offers such simplicity. Instead, God gives you something better. the capacity to move forward without full explanation, anchored not in answers but in assurance. As you walk on, you may begin to sense that the struggle itself is losing its sharpness. What once felt like an all-consuming battle now occupies a smaller space in your mind. This does not mean it has disappeared. It means it no longer defines you. God has been fighting not only against external opposition, but against the internal tyranny of fear, the belief that your peace must wait until circumstances improve. You are learning to experience peace alongside uncertainty, to carry hope without guarantees. This is not naive optimism, it is mature faith. It acknowledges the reality of difficulty while refusing to let difficulty dictate the final word. Such faith does not deny pain, but it denies pain the authority to rule your inner life. There is also a quiet dignity that emerges when you stop scrambling to prove yourself. Your actions become less reactive and more intentional. You respond rather than react. You listen more carefully. You choose your words with greater restraint. These changes may go unnoticed by others, but they are significant. They signal that you are no longer driven by the battle, but guided by conviction. God's way of fighting often involves preserving you from becoming what you oppose. In protecting your heart, He may allow circumstances to press you just enough to reveal what still needs refining. This is not punishment, it is care. He would rather you endure temporary discomfort than permanent distortion. And so, even when progress feels slow, something essential is being safeguarded within you. You may find yourself grieving not only the struggle, but the version of yourself who believed control would bring peace. Let this grief be gentle. It marks a transition from illusion to truth. You are not losing strength, you are discovering a deeper source of it. Dependence on God is not the abandonment of responsibility, but the relocation of trust. As time goes on, you may notice that you are less inclined to demand explanations for every turn the story takes. Curiosity replaces accusation. Wonder softens frustration. You begin to see that not knowing everything does not diminish your security. It may even enhance it, freeing you from the exhausting task of trying to make sense of what only time can clarify. The battle continues, yes, but it no longer feels like a personal indictment. It becomes part of a larger narrative, one that includes growth, patience, and an expanding capacity for trust. You are no longer merely surviving, you are being shaped. The very endurance that once felt burdensome now becomes a quiet testimony to the strength sustaining you. God's presence is often most evident not in dramatic intervention, but in the steady ability to keep going without losing yourself. You may not have the resolution you seek, but you have something equally valuable, the assurance that you are being led. This assurance does not eliminate uncertainty, but it renders it bearable. You are learning that faith does not mean pretending everything is fine. It means believing that everything is held by a wisdom that does not overlook details, by a love that does not grow impatient, by a purpose that does not depend on your perfection. This belief reshapes how you interpret delays, setbacks, and unanswered prayers. Even now, as you continue to move forward, there is an invitation to trust more deeply, to release more fully, to rest more honestly, not because the journey is easy, but because you are no longer carrying it alone. The God who fights for you does so with a persistence that outlasts your doubt and a patience that exceeds your understanding. And so the story keeps unfolding, quietly, steadily, without rushing toward an ending. Each step you take in trust adds to a foundation you will one day stand upon with greater confidence than you can imagine now. You may not see the full picture yet, but you are learning to walk faithfully within the portion revealed to you, allowing the unseen work to continue, allowing the battle to move toward its appointed resolution, allowing yourself to be guided rather than driven, sustained rather than strained, and as you continue onward, still releasing what was never your to control, you remain within a process that is shaping both the outcome and the one who will receive it, moving forward into what has been prepared, even now, just ahead of you, waiting to be revealed in its time. So let this be the place where you finally lay the weight down, Not because every question has been answered, not because every conflict has been resolved, but because you have come to see a deeper truth than resolution itself. You were never meant to be the final defender of your own life. The strength sustaining you now did not come from endless effort, but from surrender learned slowly, painfully, faithfully. What stands before you is not an empty future but a guarded one, not a fragile hope but a living assurance. God has been fighting for you in ways you could not trace, protecting you from outcomes you never saw coming, shaping you into someone who can walk forward without fear ruling your steps. The battle has not owned you, defined you, or defeated you. It has served its purpose, and you have been preserved through it. And as you rise from this place, no longer driven by panic or control, but steadied by trust, you do not walk away weaker for having released the fight. You walk forward free, carried by a faith that knows, beyond doubt, that what lies ahead is not chaos, not abandonment, not loss, but a future already held, already guarded, already secured by the one who never once stopped fighting for you.